Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Basi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, all our viewers. We begin with precious metals. They rebounded yesterday. But I need to warn people, for everybody who sent me a tweet, text message, should I invest in precious metals? I think you should just be very, very careful. Look at silver. It jumped 10% after dropping like 30% on Friday. It's trading like a meme stock now. It's highly speculative activity there. Gold now 4,008. Remember, gold was at 5,500 last week. So we're getting some really speculative activity now in precious metals. We move to the Asian markets. We saw a rebound, and there's a lot of action coming out of Asia. And we'll take it one by one. Look at the Nikkei 225 up by 3.9. Look at the Kospi. I mean, Samsung jumped 10% this morning. SK Hynix was up about 7%. So between the two of them, they've continued to push the Nikkei on the up and up. Look at that, 6.3% to lead Asia. Also, shout out to our director. He's a big consumer of Indian media. The Nifty and the Sensex jumping today. Look at that, 2.9% climb on the back of, according to President Trump, an agreement between India and the United States. And then Australia, despite a hike in rates today, the ASX 200 still rose. And I think that's because the governor, and we'll hear from her, of the Reserve Bank of Australia, she was pretty cagey about whether or not there'll be more rate hikes in Australia going forward. So still sticking with Asia, President Trump on his Truth Social account saying that the US is going to cut tariffs on Indian goods from 25% to 18%. So remember, it was a 50% tariff, 25% reciprocal tariffs, 25% because India was buying oil from Russia. So they're removing that second 25%. Trump claimed on his Truth Social post that India is no longer going to buy Russian oil. But based on cargo shipment data, they're still buying. So we'll see what happens there. And then he says India is going to cut its own tariffs on U.S. goods. And then, according to him, but he loves this 500 billion figure. He's repeated it for Japan. He's repeated it for Korea. Now India, too, is going to buy $500 billion worth of U.S. goods. Narendra Modi has only confirmed this cut in tariffs of 18%. The Indians have not said anything else about the other stuff. So we will see how that goes forward. Then this is Australia. Australia is the first major, the Central Bank of Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia, the first major central bank, or the first central bank from a major economy to hike rates in 2026. So 25 basis points to 3.85 from 3.6. They said it was, rising inflation. Inflation in CPI headline went from 3.4 to 3.8. That's 3.4 in November to 3.8 in December. And they're saying it's housing, services, and so on. But here is the governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia talking about that inflationary pressure.
Based on the data we've seen and the conditions here and around the world, the board now thinks it will take longer for inflation to return to target, and this is not an acceptable outcome. Now, I know this is not the news that Australians with mortgages want to hear, but it is the right thing for the economy. I said in December that the board had been alert to signs of a pickup in inflation, and we cannot allow inflation to get away from us again. Over the last 2 days, the board has been examining what has changed since our assessment in November and what's driving the pickup inflation that we've seen in recent quarters. I think the key point to make here is that it's not just one thing. The pickup is due to a combination of factors across a broad range of components and sectors. Our updated view, driven by the latest data, is that demand was stronger than expected over the second half of 2025, and we think some of that strength has carried into 2026.
So now the question is this an Australia-only story, or does it have wider ramifications? The only other major economy that we know is going to be hiking is Japan. We're going to get Bank of England on Thursday, European Central Bank on Thursday. Both of them, between the two of them, we're expecting holds or maybe even a cut. So, we'll have to see whether this, what happens the rest of the road. All right, this is another big one. So Elon Musk's SpaceX is merging with xAI. Apparently it's a $1.25 trillion valuation. So SpaceX is, and this is a privately held company, SpaceX is valued at $1 trillion. xAI valued at 250 billion. Even Dr. Bati mentioned this a week or 2 weeks ago. Remember, they've been having a lot of controversy with those explicit images that Grok has been putting out. There's bans and probes all over the place for xAI. But anyway, Musk is merging the two companies together. Here's an excerpt from a statement from the from SpaceX, from their website, with respect to that particular merger. They basically said that the merger will form the most ambitious, vertically integrated innovation engine on and off Earth with AI, rockets, space-based internet. This is the one that excites me. Direct-to-mobile device communication and the world's most foremost real-time information. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago that Elon Musk has the ability, because of the fact that SpaceX has satellites in space, to disrupt mobile service. So if you think about how you use your mobile phone, you're bouncing off cell towers. SpaceX has the ability to send a signal directly from space to your mobile phone. So whether he decides to offer that as a service or offer his own phone, if you're a mobile service operator, particularly in Africa where we complain a lot about service, you should probably be a little bit worried about what he could do. And then SpaceX is planning an IPO. Planning later this year, it could raise as much as 50 billion. Elon Musk if you look at what he's doing here, he really could be the first trillionaire on planet Earth. Let's get to Nigeria. We teased this yesterday. The Central Bank of Nigeria, of course, releasing a new report, a fintech report, shaping the future for fintech. We talked about how we were in DC, and we saw that meeting between Governor Cardoso and the fintech players. Cardoso didn't say a word. He just said he was there to listen and just went around the room talking to all the fintechs. So this report, basically, they want to make Nigeria the fintech hub of Africa. And they particularly wanted to focus on the issues the fintechs were having. They were saying their time to market is too long, regulation. So the CBN is looking at setting up a single regulatory window for the fintechs, offering compliance, CAAS, compliance as a service for the fintechs, basically to make things easier for them. And also, as far as they're looking at some kind of regional passport to where they can allow fintechs in Nigeria to operate without having to go through another set of regulations in your Ghana, Cameroon, and but that of course will require the CBN to talk with the other banks in those regions. So it's a pretty healthy report. I encourage everybody to read it. But the Central Bank of Nigeria basically wants to really boost fintechs, make their lives a whole lot easier. That's it. And then the NGX was up yesterday as well. So that's it.
I'm really excited because I remember back in the days, I really wanted to go into fintech with a consortium of partners. And then the baseline fee was about $1 billion. Yeah. As at that time, they had not even set up any regulatory framework. They didn't know what fintech was all about. Yeah. It was still hazy for them before they finally could pass them with these microfinance back licenses and all of that. So I'm happy that they've gotten to this level, which is a welcome development. Secondly, Huawei has already broken the mark in satellite phone communication with I think the Mate Pro 6 and the Chanling technology or something.
Yeah, in China. Yeah.
In China. So Huawei has already done it. So Elon Musk is just playing catch up this time around.
Okay.
Quickly on gold and silver, precious metals. Now there was a collapse on Friday. Yeah. Now 165 growth with silver in the course of the year, about 85% with the yellow metal. Yeah. But then on Friday we had that drawdown 3%, 5%. But this morning there's been a rebound. Yeah. What the analysts are saying, contrary to your skepticism, is that the thematic drivers and the expectations are positive, and that what happened was just correction, a basic correction within the market, and not that gold and silver have gone down. But of course, what happened? Wash been predicted to be the successor of a J Powell, and also the fact that the greenback, the dollar, became stronger. Yeah. So those are the issues. And then India and China. Well, we'll see how that works out. Yeah. Now, India said they will not buy Russian oil. Maybe they will keep to it. Thank you very much.